Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today we're going to talk more about fan fiction related Splinterlands stuff. We're going to talk about creating our own cards, and this is out of a People's Guild Hive contest that they're creating. It's part of this idea that they want to replace the Gladiator cards within Splinterlands, and so we're just creating ideas. We're brainstorming what could that look like. They've labeled it the Dominion set or series, and they've given it a certain flavor, like instead of being bloodlusty where one card will carry, maybe it's more ability sets that benefit the broader team. And so it's a whole new idea with an intent that fans of the game of Splinterlands would drive creativity within this amazing space. I love it and I want to participate. I've got my ideas. I'm going to share with you in this video. I hope you'll stick around. If not, thanks so much for coming by, and hope you have an awesome day. Let's get into it. Okay, so the People's Guild did part 1 like 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, maybe, probably 2 weeks ago. And I did participate in that post. I came up with one new ability for every one of these different splinters. The idea being it would be this unique ability set that might benefit the team in a broader way, as opposed to the Bloodlust, which is so individually beneficial. And so with that in mind, I just want to quickly recap what I talked about under my post, which was 18 days ago. I had this idea, first of all, that this would reflect all the different spaces. We have dragon, we have fire, we have water, looks like there's like a character that's more in light and a character that's more in darkness, life and death. And so I tried to represent, using AI, tried to create a prompt or a visual display that might reflect this idea of this new class of card. And then I did a whole video talking about it. If you want to watch that, check it out. But I came up with this very briefly, the idea of watery, the ability slippery, having something to do with like an evasive capacity. You know, flying allows non-flyers to miss 25% chance of the time. Slippery could mean, like, if you're not a water unit, without slippery, you have a 25% chance to miss the slippery unit. Simple, and it's not one of my favorites, but just quickly wanted to feature that. This is one of the ones I'm going to feature today. Deep Roots, one of the 3 that I'm gonna actually give you a character for in this video. Deep Roots, Earth. The imagery is that trees have these like extensive, vast root systems. The root, if you don't know, often the root system of a tree is larger than the greenery visible above ground. And so on massive trees, you can picture massive greenery. Well, the root system is even more massive. And that says something about the strength, the durability, the enduring health and power of a tree. It's difficult to destroy. And we see that imagery in like, for instance, Lord of the Rings, where you see the Ents and how strong they are, how resilient they are. And my idea was that, what if, instead of a resurrect exactly, which we see once you die in Splinterlands, your card can be resurrected or reborn with the Rebirth ability. And so it's like you lose all your abilities and you come back one time. What if Deep Roots is an ability that the tree character, or maybe tree characters, can have while this one character, again, I'm going to show you in a minute, is in play. So he supports trees. The root systems of them can be nourished by his strength. And meaning, when you go below, when you die, when you no longer have any more hit points and you should disappear, you're not immediately reborn. You need to be supported in some way. You need to be nurtured in some way. If there's a triage, if there's a self-heal, if there's a tank heal that allows that character which is dead to be restored through natural healing mechanisms, it can be brought back. In the same way, a tree or a piece of greenery that is nearly dead, maybe even visually is dead, but the root system's still alive in there, can be brought back with light and water and good soil. And so it's kind of like a resurrect, but it would be redoable for as long as that character keeps getting healed after falls down below 0. So Deep Roots is that one that I will feature. We'll see a card with that ability in a minute. Scorched Earth, I will not feature this one, so I won't spend a bunch of time on it. But it was something like a redemption that would affect the entire team, the entire playing field. Okay, Death Corpse Explosion. I do have a card that I want to share with you that will have this ability. That's my creation, again using AI, because I'm not an artist, but I do think that this is a cool ability. And I said that when a monster with Corp Explosion dies, apply poison to the attacker and heal any adjacent allies. I actually think I've rethought this a little bit. I want to move away from the any adjacent ally heal. I want to move toward a corrupted heal. My vision for this is that there's like a magical spell, or like there's a trap that's on the person of the enemy, or the person that you've attacked and destroyed. You are going to be poisoned by that, or 50% chance to be poisoned by that. Same rules as any poison in the game. And simultaneously, there's this positive benefit to all ally players, a corrupted heal, which has its negatives. We know that corrupted heal creates cripple effect, or reduces your total hit points, but it can heal the whole team, whole ally team. So that we are going to see a card like that. Hedge of Protection from the Life team. I will not dive into that today. Golden Trinkets from the Dragon team. I will create a card that's going to have this ability. So let's dive deeper on this one. This is the idea that it would be the first ever tactics monster. So you'd be allowed to essentially take a trinket from the golden treasures, the treasure trove, or the hoard of treasure that the character defends. It's a dragon. Dragons are so often associated with treasure. Well, he has an abundant treasure with some of the maybe historic relics that are mythical in real life. I pictured the Ark of the Covenant, or I pictured the like mythical sword of the Knights of the Round Table, I think. So we're going to feature golden trinkets, we're going to feature deep roots, and we're going to feature corpse explosion. If you want to learn more about what I propose for different abilities, check out this post. I'll link it in the description. But now we're going to move into the current, or the new creations, and actually how I got there too. By the way, I'm going to show you how I thought through the process. So here's what I'm imagining. The first, we'll go golden trinkets because we have it here on the page. Golden trinkets is the ability. And the character in question is this one that I asked the Canva to AI to generate. And the description that I provided was this. Draw Aldranax, the Horde Keeper. This is Aldranax, the Horde Keeper. A dragon of unparalleled might and ageless wisdom. His scales gleam like polished steel, and he guards a vast treasure filled with priceless wonders. He is a massive winged dragon who breathes fire and jealously guards his trinkets. And so the one piece that I would wish that if I could, tweak to this visual depiction would be, I would love to see some of the treasure somehow behind him or being protected by him. But I'm presuming it's within the mountain. That's my vision for this character. He has mythical and legendary artifacts that are deeply powerful. And I have a whole lore that I'm gonna share with you here in a minute. And he is huge. He's powerful. He's winged. He flies. He has physical attack. He has magic attack. I'm gonna say magic fire attack. I think he'd be a powerful monster. And I have stats and everything. So let's get into it. First, I want to read the lore. And now this is through ChatGPT. I came up with this, but I didn't just say. I gave it some prompting. And if you're interested, you can read it there. But here's what we came up with. I love it. Aldranax the Horde Keeper is a creature of unparalleled might and ageless wisdom, a dragon whose vast treasure hoard stretches across caverns and tunnels far beneath the mountains. His scales gleam like polished steel. That's where I got that from in my own AI art generator text. Each breath of an ember glowing from a life steeped in greed and the thrill of possession. Driven by lust for things rare and powerful, Aldranax has collected more than just gold and jewels. His hoard includes artifacts with powerful powers capable of reshaping the world. I love that part. I tried to pull that out in a sense through some wording that I provided. Among his collections rests the gleaming sword of the first dawn. I love that. Whose blade is said to never dull. That's cool. And that makes me think like maybe this could be a tactics +1 melee. But I kind of think I'll share with you my preferred tactics buffs that would maybe be associated with this idea of golden trinkets in a minute. But you could imagine maybe a melee buff. And then it says, and the Shroud of Lazarus, which whispered to bestow a second life upon death, which is really interesting. A Shroud of Lazarus, because biblically Lazarus rose again from death after Jesus called him out of death. And so first of all, the name's awesome. Second of all, the imagery is clear. Third, it could be a resurrect that you place on a character, and like a rebirth that you place on a character. And I think you're not going into such a crazy place, really. Like, I mean, yes, of course, that's powerful. And this card would be powerful. This is probably a legendary, I'm imagining, but let's carry forward. So I'm saying that I think Shroud of Lazarus might be a trinket that this AI helped me realize should be part of him, or an ability that he can share. Let's go on. Ancient staves etched with celestial ruins lie beside engraved tomes is what I would rather use there, because I want the idea of magical tombs to be included. There are pages detailing spells that could lay waste to cities or raise armies with shadow. For centuries, adventurers, warriors, and kings have come seeking these items, hoping to claim their power, yet Aldernax has guarded his treasure jealously, warning the lesser beings to think themselves worthy of wielding such might. I love that part. That feels so lore appropriate within the context of like what a dragon would, how they would jealously, guard their treasures. He is no mindless monster, nor is he cruel without reason. In his eyes, every item in his hoard is a prize won, a testament to his will, and a mark of wisdom in knowing when to take and when to let live. I like that, and that is a bit of my lore connection with how he comes to, let's say, share his trinkets with his team. He is jealous. He shouldn't, on one hand, you might argue he wouldn't share his trinkets. Maybe he should be using them into his own effect. Yeah, I could argue that'd be an interesting character too. But I'm imagining he is not cruel without reason. I'm imagining he is not a mindless monster. I'm imagining that for his own better benefit, he would attribute certain key weaponry to an allied monster for his own protection, for his own defense, for his own betterment. And so there's a path in there through his own self protective desire, and maybe in the best interest of his treasure trove complete, that he'd be willing to sacrifice one thing to protect the rest. Anyways, it goes on. Those who dare approach his lair face traps of shifting stone, toxic vapors, and finally Aldernax himself, a fierce sentinel whose loyalty lies with his trove. He neither leans toward darkness nor light. His allegiance is to the treasure and the thrilling mastery it brings. I love that. Aldernax knows each artifact's power and the devastation it could bring if wielded unwisely. I like that because it makes it seem, again, like he's not just evil for evil's sake. He is greedy, yes, but he actually understands the risk of letting these dangerous, powerful, like maybe it's risk to himself. He doesn't want you to have these powers because you might harm him, but maybe it's also a little bit of like the world would be destroyed if these powers were released and revealed. With ancient eyes and flame-edged claws, he defends his hoard with fury, for only he can bear the burden of such power, and only he is fit to own it. I love that. That's my lore. That's my character. Aldernax the Hoard Keeper. One more time, here's the visual. And I looked at many of these. I thought this one was the best. I think he looks intelligent in the face there. I like that. I think his wings look massive. I think he looks poised, even though he's ancient, and that's reflected by his size. There's also there's a agility that seems clear to me, mobility, right? He is not old, he's not worn out, he is ready. I think he would have to have physical damage, like the ability to strike with like a melee damage. I think also he would have to have a magic or like a fire damage. I'm going to call it magic. So I do think he's that kind of monster. I do think he has to have huge hit points. Here's what I wrote on my okay, so Aldernax, he is going to have Aldernax the Hoard Keeper will have golden trinkets as one of his abilities. That ability either assigns a 1 dragon scale armor equals resistance to incendiary. I think my vision here is that it is a counter to the debilitation that comes from incendiary. And so I imagine debilitations are going to grow in the game. Incendiary is one, I think only on one card right now, but I imagine there'll be more and more of those. We also see electrical damage. I think you could make a case for the dragon scale armor protects you against that sort of physical debilitation damage. I'm not exactly sure how to word that, but that's how I'm approaching it. Dragon scale armor, resistance to incendiary, and maybe electrical. And I would argue it prevents the spread thereof too, because incendiary, it literally goes through your whole team. Once it attaches to the next, it can burn everybody, and it's quite damaging. 2 damage per turn with incendiary. So I think Dragon Scale Armor might feel niche in this moment, but I think ultimately if there's a future where there's more incendiary, that could make more sense. Simultaneously, if you made it not just incendiary resistance but electrical resistance, you now are protecting yourself essentially against debilitation damage, at least on one of your characters. Okay, so that's one approach to one of his tactics that he gets to assign, or you get to assign on his behalf each time you play him. And another was Divine Shield. I thought Divine Shield makes a lot of sense because they're within Lord of the Rings living card game. Bilbo Baggins famously wore a mithril armor. And the mithril armor or shirt, at least in the game, provides... there's both a card game and there's a video game. In the video game, it provides one protection. One is like you can be struck without receiving any damage. Now, that might be 1 damage incoming. It might be 20. It's everything and anything in one single instance. And that's the Divine Shield within Splinterlands. And so I think this mithril shirt came from a treasure trove in The Hobbit. And so I love that imagery. I love that idea. I like that sort of wink and nod towards Lord of the Rings, which I love. And so I think I would be inclined to say those are 2 amazing abilities that can be chosen from the trinkets. And I think finally, I really love that Lazarus, Shroud of Lazarus. And so this is like you bestow a second life upon one of your characters. So it's it's a rebirth that you place on a monster. It's resurrect that you place on it would be a rebirth. It's a rebirth that you place onto whatever monster you want. I know that's powerful. And yes, that in my mind, that ability or that one trinket alone, I don't think those are 3 equal abilities. And I've spent 4 hours today thinking about this, writing this stuff, using AI to generate the imagery as well as the lore. But I still, I would want to spend days more if this was really ready to be submitted to game design, and I'd want to hear your guys' feedback. I think as I say that out loud, we would need to it would probably be Dragon Scale Armor, which is resistance to debilitation damage and equivalent to 1 Divine Shield. So that is 1 kit, or the second kit is the rebirth that you can apply to one character. And I think that would be the approach that I would take to that. Now, from a stats perspective, I think he has to have at least 8 hit points. He's this massive creature. I think more makes sense, but I also don't... I talked about giving him both physical and magic damage. I don't know if I want him to be, some crazy carry card with 15 hit points and whatnot. So let's call it this. Flying, yes. He's got wings. He's got to be a flyer. He's got to have physical as well as magical damage, so make it 3 and 3. And I think hit points 9 hit points. I actually said 8+, but I think 3 melee and 3 magic with 4 speed. Actually, I want to bring that down to 2 speed, because he is this massive creature. Although he can fly and he can move, he's not quick. And I think he's got to go 12 hit points. In this world with Splinterlands and with power creep, I think we can go that big, and we're not going to cause too much trouble. And he has 2 armor because his scales are like polished steel. And so I think he would be able to attribute those trinkets to an ally, maybe not to himself. No, it's a tactics. You could apply it anywhere, even to himself. And I think I would be tempted to say like there's a self-heal, but now I'm getting him into sort of a carry place, like himself being a tank and a double attacker and this powerful self-res or this divine shield with dragon skill armor, etc. I think maybe no heal and maybe no other. I said flying. I said golden trinkets. I think he probably needs to have shield. Because of that, so I would give him shield, and I'd remove and I think that speaks to the scales that are like polished steel, and I want to give him piercing. He only has 3 melee attack, but I think piercing with those claws makes sense. And maybe he needs a debilitation. Maybe he himself has the incendiary debilitation. I think that makes sense, especially since we talked about how he seems to above all else be concerned about his treasure and his life and his success and victory. So, and he has this magical fire. Well, if he's doing magical fire damage and he is this kind of character, you don't imagine him being like particularly careful with your life, even if you're his ally. And so I like the idea. Plus it gives more, let's say, functionality to the idea that you might want to use the dragon scale armor and combined with the divine shield on one monster instead of the rebirth. Okay, so that's it. That's my Aldranax the Horde Keeper, and I love that one. Let's see what else we got. Okay, the next one. Let's see. I want to show you the artwork. Let's go into Deep Roots. This is the character that I came up with that it will utilize the Deep Roots. And we are calling him, so I was playing with like Ents, like from Lord of the Rings. And, you know, there's so much I could tell you on like what that makes me think around, but here's what I got. It took some work, but here's where I landed with my lore on what I'm calling the Alderim. This is like the race of these tree people. And yes, they are Ent-like. They're inspired by the Lord of the Rings Ents. And here's what we read. The lore reads as follows. The Alderim are an ancient race of walking, talking trees, each towering like ancient oaks and adorned with intricate moss-laden bark that whispers of untold ages. The Alderim once ruled vast primeval forests and stretched across the lands. They are known for their wisdom, their unbreakable code of honor, and their fierce protection of all life under their branches. While slow to anger, their loyalty runs as deep as their roots, and their strength rivals the unyielding power of the earth. I love that it mentioned deep as their roots because we're going to go there with the ability. In their lore, there is a tale of a dark epoch that known as the Withering. Ages ago, a corrupted force tainted parts of the forest realm, turning many of their kin into twisted, shadowed beings. And that might be a place of an opportunity to like do a dark representation of this on like a death team or something like that, where they're, I don't know, withered tree or something like that. Shadowed being, these once proud Alderim were lost, leaving their people scarred and cautious of encroaching darkness. During this time, they fought alongside the elves, who saw the Alderim as their elder kin. Together they worked to cleanse the forest and keep the shadows at bay. This bond with the elves is still cherished, and the Alderim look upon them with as trusted allies and stewards of the natural world. Their ancient enmity with orcs stems from this era. Orcs drawn to destruction and chaos were a relentless threat to the Alderim's sacred groves, cutting down young trees and despoiling the land. To this day, the Alderim view orcs as their mortal enemies, standing resolute against any incursion into the forests. Orcs, they say, are embodiments of withering darkness, a reminder of what their own kind could have become had they not resisted the corruption. That's so cool. I love that piece because it like, and I asked it to generate this lore of like of a certain dark age that where some of their past was forgotten. So I love how it ran with that. And then there's one more sentence here. The Alderim society is a deeply ritualistic, governed by councils held under full moon, where they sing songs older than memory and vow to keep their forest safe. Though time moves slowly for them, their loyalty to honor and balance remains unchanging, an eternal testament to their ancient kinship and vigilance. And I love that. And this is, so they are the Alderim people, and this would be, what was the name I came up with them? Shadowbark. Shadowbark feels very Lord of the Rings, and he would have the new ability Deep Roots, which is after healed, one of your allies has one turn to heal, and I think it would apply to the way I originally imagined it would be that it would be his ability, but I actually like the idea that he can like somehow stir life or nurture the roots of another living creature. And I'm specifically thinking of trees. So whether there was other Alderim in the game, but there's already trees in the game. And those trees, they could be stirred in this way. So any of the trees on your earth team, of which there are actually at least 2. Let's quickly have a look at this. Well, spore beast, some kind of fungus, but I would argue that it's going to have a root system. Acid shooter looks like he's got a horn. I thought it was like a tree root coming out of his head. Maggus, madcap, earth elemental, sorcerer. That's another mushroom type character. And so we've heard that Splinterlands wants to explore creating like almost synergies that happen because of their backstory, their lore, maybe their character class, things like Lurking Puffer. I would argue that if they are rooted creatures, that they could see some sort of benefit from deep roots. And rooted creatures should make sense. Like you wouldn't expect a goblin to have roots. You wouldn't expect a bull to have roots, or a person. But I think a Swamp Thing, I think I listed Queen Mycelia. I probably listed 7 or 8 different either mushrooms or trees that would likely have a root system, and they should be able to benefit from the deep roots that you see on this character, on the Alrx class, on Shadowbark specifically. Spirit of the Forest is another. And so anything with roots, with the root system, can be stirred back into life from death. This is different than a resurrect, because a resurrect means that when you have a resurrect on Sirenth, it comes back to life after it dies. The deep roots would mean that anything with a root system can be brought back to life after being killed. And this is repeatable as long as there's a heal, a triage, or a tank heal that allows new life to enter those roots. So if there's something that stirs, then it can do that for you. It has to do that before the round ends. So it's the opportunity to be resurrected, not a resurrect. And so I think it would be important for this character to have triage themselves, triage and self-heal. And in so doing, there's the conceivability that Shadowbark himself might resurrect himself after, not resurrect, but that he would, because of the deep roots, that he would not die after reaching 0 hit points, because he might have his turn still and then heal himself, and give himself that second opportunity. Now he still would be vulnerable. He wouldn't be fully healed because it's a typical heal, and the triage would do the same thing. If the triage came after the execution or the finishing of that character, it could be brought back so long as Shadowbark. Yeah, Shadowbark's turn had not yet lapsed, because he would then triage you back into life. And so I think we're talking about abilities, deep roots, which I just described, triage, heal, self-heal, that is. And I think something else called refresh. Refresh is another new ability that I want to tag in here. And refresh is trees create fresh air that we can breathe. And we know that there's noxious fumes within the game of Splinterlands. We also know that there's a poison. And so poison takes away 2 life per turn. And the noxious fumes makes it seem like there's just deadly air around you. Well, what if there was a tree refreshing that air? Shadowbark is one of those. He refreshes the space near him. So the 2 neighboring, or the neighboring units, only the neighboring ones, would have the ability to breathe that refreshing air. And so they would receive 2 heals per turn while poisoned, or like counter to poison, so long as the refresh ability was on the table, and it symbolizes that fresh air that trees create. And I think also I love the idea from the Ents that they're turned into action and activity when some of their own trees are destroyed. We see that even in the story that we heard from the lore of Aldranax, or Alderim, the tree people I'm describing. I like the idea that this character would have a physical melee attack, but that melee attack would just be a standardized attack until such time that one of your monsters is unlocked. Destroyed. Until such time that one of your allies is destroyed, and then it becomes an opportunity attack. In the Lord of the Rings, we see that the Ents attacked and destroyed Saruman's army in a moment when he wasn't attending to that space. And so there was an opportunity attack in to use the language of Splinterlands. He attacked a vulnerable place where the enemy wasn't paying attention to in the back lines, an opportunity attack, but it only happened in the Ents lore after they felt that their trees and their forests were in true danger and Fangorn was like at risk. And so I like the idea that it's a melee attack. You can put him in the front position if you want, but he will become an opportunity attack if one of your monsters dies. And so you might bury this card in the back line, thereby not enabling its attack on turn 1, but you would use it as a support monster, and it's a large support monster. 15 hit points. I think that's important because he has it's this ancient forest that's grown massively. It's this gigantic living creature that is durable and endures. It's got a melee attack of 5. And so, yes, you could put this in the front line and make it a tank, but it's only got 1 speed and 0 armor. It has no shield or anything like that. It has triage and heal. Heal, yeah, that's going to be a significant 5-point heal every single time you heal. But as you see with Bakjira, it can be vulnerable if there's no other heals or cleanses, etc. And so I like that idea. That's what I would want to go with. 15 hit points, 5 melee attack, 1 speed, 0 armor, triage heal, refresh, and deep roots as the abilities. And like I said, the melee attack can become an opportunity attack after such time that one of your own monsters falls. Okay, so that's my idea. Okay, so that's Shadowbark from the Alder. And finally, this is Malakar. This one's interesting to me. We're talking about a dark sorcerer who is undead. This is ultimately the picture I'm going with. I like the detail and the there's a real intelligence that seems visible there in the face, and also like almost a rulership and there's tattered robes, which is important to me in terms of like the lore that you'll see in a minute. So this is Malakar. And the ability we'll be featuring here is called Corpse Explosion, which I created or suggested in my Hive post. Corpse Explosion. When a monster with Corpse Explosion dies, apply poison to an attacker. Actually, that would be a 50% chance to do so. And heal any adjacent ally. I actually think it's heal the whole team with Corrupted Heal. So that's the reworking that I've done there. And here again is the character. Malakar is his name, and here's his lore. Once a lord of high esteem, the dark sorcerer Malakar viewed himself not as a villain, but as a guiding force for those too weak or foolish to see their own potential. Love that. Ages ago in life, he had been a brilliant scholar of alchemy and magic, mastering rare poisons and devising intricate traps to guard his hidden libraries of knowledge. To Malakar, power was never a means of oppression, but of enlightenment. Only through control and ruthlessness could one keep the weak from self-destruction, and so he believed, or so he believed. In his time as a ruler, Malakar reigned over a fearful but obedient people, claiming that fear was their salvation. Ooh, that line, I like that. They revered him in his eyes as a necessary evil, one who could be both guardian and tyrant. His minions trembled at his command, not out of hatred, but respect for the strength he displayed in doing what others would not dare. Poisoned weapons and silent traps were his tools, set to eliminate only those who he deemed threats to his vision of order. When death finally came for him, Malakar refused its call. I love that. Anchoring his spirit to the ancient body through dark rituals. Now an undead sorcerer, he wanders the shadows of his former dominion. His form is frail, withered, and robed in tattered garments, but his mind remains sharp, animated, and by drive to complete his quote-unquote work. His flesh hangs loosely from ancient bones, yet his voice retains a chilling authority that commands legions. In Malakar's twisted mind, he still sees himself as a noble figure, a shepherd of lost souls who need to rule, who need his rule to survive the darkness he believes they are too weak to face alone. Through fear, poison, and steel, he continues to guard the ruins of his kingdom, a warped sentry to the order he holds dear, believing even now that his rule is a gift to a world too blind to see its worth. I love that whole thing. I wish I could say I wrote that. I didn't. I did create the prompts that they allowed the AI to come there, but I love everything about that character. I'm glad we're finishing here. Malakar would have corpse explosion as an ability. Again, that's a 50. When you kill me, it's a 50% chance that I'm gonna poison you, and the character would also have, sorry, that ability would also enable a corrupted heal to my own team on death. And so my explosion, there's a corpse explosion, but there's this ancient ritual that or this, mystic sort of shrine I've put at my feet or over my body that once destroyed will release this power. 50% chance to proc poison on you, the attacker, 100% chance for corrupted heal of my own team. I think this character would need to have void shield, void shield and shield, immunity, small HP, like 1 hit point, magic damage 4, speed 1, and big armor like 10. I'm saying 10 armor. So we're going to be a distraction to you. Like if you're doing opportunity attacks, you're going to come at me, and that's what I guess that's what we want. We're doing some contribution of magic damage, which makes sense. We would definitely have poison, the ability poison as well, because of everything that the lore implied about his use of poison. He's resilient. The shield is massive. If you bring Shatter, you're gonna kill him quite rapidly, and that would be problematic for me. But that's the main vulnerability. I like this card. I think this one I really think is special. I like that lore in particular. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments below. I showed you all 3 of my art styles. This is the one I ultimately picked for Malakar. Again, this is our Shadow Bark, and use of my golden trinkets, Aldranax. I'll make sure this is all posted on Hive. You can see the artwork. Guys, support the People's Guild contest. This is exciting. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Have an amazing day. God bless.